A listener warning. Please be advised that this episode contains content that may be disturbing to some listeners, including descriptions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Life upon the wicked stage ain't ever what a girl supposes.
I'm Jen.
I'm Ashley.
And I'm Olivia.
And we are, in fact, three different people.
This podcast focuses on true crime under the spotlight of arts and entertainment. So grab your beverage of choice and settle in.
Places, ladies.
Here is our episode. There it is.
There it is. Okay.
Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
floozies.
I'm so happy to see you, ladies.
Jen has housekeeping things, but first, we were just talking about this. I would like, and this will come up in the housekeeping maybe, but like now that we're officially on a like primary video platform with this podcast, I feel the need to like really plan an outfit now in a way I didn't before. But Olivia, like, please describe to those who are only listening what you're wearing, because this is fabulous today.
I wanted to be a bit dramatic. I'm in my black robe with cheetah trim,
Nice.
and some really deep red fringe earrings because I just, it kind of symbolizes the spot, if you will.
Ah,
Our
the damned spot, if you
That's
will.
right.
Yeah.
So, and
nice.
I kind of felt like, when you're backstage, you often walk around with some kind of robe or something on.
Correct.
So
Sure, yeah.
I was kind of invoking that
Yeah.
vibe. Yeah.
That's what I'm in every time.
Jen has a uniform. Jen
I
actually- I don't know, Jen. Do you actually ever not wear a robe when you're home? Is this just what you wear all the
This is
time?
what I
and
wear
you
all
happen
the
to
time.
catch you every couple weeks?
No, I put this on specifically for the podcast. I normally wear like yoga pants, but when we first decided to do this, we talked about like, well, what do you wear in a green room? Usually some sort of fabulous robe. So, and we did it like the first time, and I was like, I'm sticking to it.
I love
So I have.
At some point, we'll all have like sponsored matching.
Yeah.
Feathered, like a whole
fantastic robes. Yeah.
Remember the day I wore Victorian and I didn't know why we were wearing Victorian?
But
and so
we
I
were
wore like a
supposed
Victorian
to be wearing Victorian.
lace
Yeah.
and I was like, so I have a question. Why did we all decide to dress Victorian? We're all like, we're not dressing Victorian.
That wasn't what the text thread said.
Dressing
at all, but-
flapper.
If you don't know what that is, it's probably because you're not at the Patreon at $3 or more. So go ahead and join, and you'll know why.
Join
I
our
had to
Patreon
edit that out.
For last season's two-part
time.
finale. The
The
Black
brain
Dahlia.
fog that I live with on a daily is real. It happens all the time. It's
It
Rock.
happened today.
Poor Rock.
Yeah.
It happened today. I thought it was my episode today.
She was
But I'm
researched and ready to
prepared.
go.
I was ready. And then I was like, wait, Ashley made it sound in the text like she was doing an episode today. I should
Ashley
probably
implied
check
she
on
might
that.
be hosting. It was
All I knew was it wasn't me. So
context
I'm
clues.
looking forward to my hormone therapy that hopefully will be starting this month. And I think it's going to make a big difference.
yeah.
The research is, as Olivia already said, today's episode is on Macbeth, aka the Scottish play. None of us are sitting in a theater right now, so we can say
it.
We can say it.
Do you all do the thing where before you say the name, you pause to make sure it's okay to say? I do that. I've done that for you're like, oh, like Rock asked me, what's the episode on today? And I was like, and I had to think, no, I'm in my house. I'm okay. It's Macbeth. Or like,
I think
you'll be in your
always
car.
just
It's
say the Scottish
Macbeth.
play. I think
Yeah,
I just
the Scottish
always
play.
say
default.
that.
Yeah.
Or I say Mackers.
Mac Daddy. I like to.
Oh, I've never heard
Mackers.
Mackers. That's a different one.
Oh, can I housekeep before we get into it?
Oh, yes.
Jen,
Real
do
quick.
your housekeeping
Look,
first.
we all forgot. See? It's not
We all forgot. It's
going
not
great.
just you. I have ADHD. You have hormones. It's a whole. We're a mess.
I'm just tired.
Ashley's just tired.
I exercised too hard. My electrolytes are down, and now I'm drinking. It's gonna
No,
be great.
it's going to go well.
It's going to be good. So, everyone, first of all, I just want to thank you all for sticking with us. We're having a blast. We have added a new place for you to be able to listen to us, so you can stream on YouTube now the podcast itself, season 1 and season 2. You can now also watch the podcast and see our beautiful faces and whatever outfits we have decided to come up with, and me in my uniform, on YouTube. Season 2 only because I'm not going
Good,
back.
because
Sorry.
that's when my mic started working.
Well,
so
season
if you've hung
one's
around,
on the
thank
podcast.
you.
So season 2 videos are on YouTube. They are all up. They are available now. They do have ads. So if you would like to have them without ads, you can get them on Patreon, $3 or more a month. And
Today's.
it is a great time to join Patreon. And thank you so much for all of our Patreon subscribers. We love you so much. Because I just cut down our George Reeves episode, which by this point will already be out. We talked for 3 hours, ladies.
We did. It might
3
have been
hours
a record for
recorded for 3 hours.
For a non-2-part episode.
Yeah. And I cut that baby down to an hour and a half.
Woo-hoo.
So there are going to be mini episodes galore, including one that is just on the ghost at his Benedict Canyon house. So that's going to be available at the Patreon level, $5 and up. So just, $5 a month. Go ahead and join that. But if you just want to see our beautiful faces and or listen on a different platform, it's up on YouTube.
You can get either 4 Haas avocados or you can get a month of Patreon.
And you know what?
Of 3 Haas ladies.
Ooh.
I see what you did there, Jen.
You like that? Thanks.
That was good. That was nice. Yeah.
Or you can get our Patreon.
Nice.
That
Nice.
was the avocado song.
That's not the avocado. That was very good.
Mexico. I don't even know. I assume they're still coming from
Also, we are tariff proof. So we're not going to be affected by
the tariff has not yet impacted this podcast in terms of just our ability to share this content with you.
Side
floozies, this episode has everything. I'm gonna be full stuff on.
I can't wait.
This episode has everything: the King James Bible, demons, Disney, Sir Patrick Stewart. And it takes place in a haunted castle frequented by the cast of Outlander.
What?
Yes.
Jen was squeaking, and then you said frequented. I've never heard that before.
Frequented.
Just a fancy way of saying it. Stuart says it.
Frequented. It's the English way. It's like old with an E. Yeah. So we are talking, as we said, we're talking about today Shakespeare's Macbeth, aka the Scottish play. Specifically, we're going to talk about the origins of the play itself. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about why and how maybe it has become cursed, and also some famous incidents that are tied possibly to the curse. So. As you may have guessed from my my little commercial just now about this episode having everything, as a longtime thespian, I have heard, Macbeth, you call it the Scottish play. I know Macbeth. I'm, familiar with it. This took so many turns that I had absolutely no idea about. And I just kept, throughout my research, I kept squeaking like, what? Like,
I cannot wait.
And I went down so many rabbit holes and have done my best to really, for Jen's sake, really, to cull this for time and brevity.
It's okay, though. My theater geek is like, I'll be so happy.
I'm very excited.
So this is, anyway, we're going to dive in because I can't even begin to unpack it without just unpacking it. Mm-hmm. So the term the Scottish play, for those who are uninitiated, maybe you're more on our true crime side than our theater side, but it is a term that is used by actors and theater folk as a superstitious workaround to avoid saying Macbeth inside a theater. Saying the title aloud is believed to bring bad luck, mishaps, or even tragedy during a production.
Not just believed, proven fact.
Mm-hmm. There is documented reason to believe that you shouldn't be doing this.
Yep.
And I think we can all say sometimes you'll run into that person. It's usually someone who's like new to like theater. It's like, some Chad who's like just found that like community theater is also like a great way to pick up women. And
God damn it, Chad, you're right.
And they'll be very cavalier, and they'll like say, like, what? You mean I can't say Macbeth in the theater? And, like,
and everybody's like,
shut up.
You
yes,
cannot.
and people would get mad. Yes, I have seen literal fights about this, and people who say, who will say it in the theater, and those people, I mean, I can't say if they're alive and well today, but
No.
Well, I have
know
a
what?
story.
That Chad better be the one that gets hurt. That's all I'm going to
That's
say.
right.
Sandbag better fall
Hi,
on Chad's
oh,
head.
hi,
Yeah.
Fitz.
I have a quick story about that with our friend Terrence Shank. May he rest in peace. The very first time I met him, I was running sound. He was doing a production of The Seagulls, and I had gotten involved with his production of Merrily We Roll Along. But before that went up, he was doing The Seagulls, and he needed a sound operator for a couple days. So I was like, sure, I'll do it. So I'm sitting in the back of the house, kind of learning the sound board. And Terrence says he was walking around the theater, and he said, I don't remember why, but this was before the doors opened for the audience, but he referenced Macbeth, and he said, of all
Terrence
people,
did?
said Macbeth. And I went, Terrence, you can't say that. And he put his hands on his hips and he went, oh, Macbeth, Macbeth, Macbeth. And I was like, I will not be held responsible for whatever happens during this production. Fast forward about 45 minutes into the production of The Seagull, all the power went out. We had a brownout where the emergency lights came on. This was in the summer. The air conditioning went out. All the sound and light cues were gone.
Oh my God.
And the audience was sweltering.
Yeah.
And we had to end the show early. And I said to Terrence, you know why this happened. He goes, I don't want to hear it.
did it.
I don't want to
Did
hear it.
this.
I'm like, this is your fault.
Yeah.
You tempted
You
the
cannot
witches.
tempt. You cannot tempt the muses.
Don't
You
tempt
cannot
the-
tempt
that's
fate.
right.
Oh
You
my
cannot
gosh.
do it.
Well, Olivia, that is a perfect anecdote, because that is exactly the sort of thing that we are going to be talking about today. So while Macbeth has had a haunted reputation since the 1600s, we'll say like mythos of the curse, and also the various rituals to break the curse if
Yes.
someone says it, like Mr. Terrence Shank there.
Right.
These took root in theater culture really in the last, 150 years or so. So like late 19th, early 20th century. And that has really grown into the curse and the superstition as we recognize it today. So rumors of the curse did begin soon after the play premiered, which was in there around about 1606. I think that's the first documented production we have of it. But I think it really took root due to just the dark themes and, like witchcraft and murder that center in the story of Macbeth. So it was one of those, it's not like, oh, we have, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma is cursed. It's like, no. Starting with the French on top. And it's like, it's cursed. And it's like,
Poor
no.
Judd is dead, and he dropped dead.
Judd isn't very nice, so.
I mean,
He's misunderstood, but you know what? Should we, Ashley? Probably not. That's
what?
yeah. Should we maybe talk just a little bit about, without going into it because it's a 3-act play, but maybe we should talk a little bit about what is in the show for anybody that
yes.
hasn't seen it or was
Yeah.
forced to read it.
Absolutely. I totally have a whole
Great.
section
Okay.
about this. So yes, and Olivia.
Let me just ready. Beep beep. This is me backing out of the.
She's backing out of it. Good job.
So like we were saying, like from the jump, like there was some, I'll say like dark energy maybe surrounding this production. But even early productions, and we have some documentation of this that we'll get into, but they were dogged by like illness and deaths. And some of this was potentially exaggerated by oral tradition over time. But by the Victorian era, really, actors had become pretty superstitious of this as a play. So, like we said, the Scottish play entered into usage as a way to avoid saying Macbeth. And then there was a specific set of instructions for breaking the curse if someone were to say it. And it was in the Victorian era when those pieces were kind of officially formalized. So, Olivia, I know you said, like, tell us, like, what is Macbeth about? Before I can tell you that, we have to take... we have to take an insane journey back into the 1600s, really actually into the late 1500s. And this is where I was like, what is happening? This section header in my document, I have called it, "Did an early satanic panic give us Macbeth?"
Ooh.
Because it's like, where did Macbeth come from? Like,
Right.
why the darkness?
Right.
Just real quick for those, because I mentioned this to someone this week, and they said, "What is the satanic panic?" To which
I guess
was
if you're not a true crime buff, maybe you're not familiar with
interesting.
satanic
Yeah,
panic.
I guess.
really quick, to sum it up in one paragraph, the Satanic Panic was a widespread moral hysteria in the 1980s and 1990s, mostly in the U.S., and it centered around fear of a hidden network of Satan-worshipping cults who were allegedly abusing children, conducting rituals, and infiltrating schools, daycares, and media.
Think of like Pizzagate, but like 40 years ago.
Yes.
America.
All this to say, this was all very conspiracy centered. A lot of innocent people were wrongly accused and ruined. Some of them went to prison.
Yeah, some children were taken away from their parents.
Yeah,
This is a whole thing we could go down, but basically, as the name suggests, it was a panic that was really rooted in not the thing people thought it was. It was one of those like, yes, there really is. We're sort of coming to terms with like child abuse in this country, but it's not the Satanists. It's probably happening inside your own home. It's probably actually within your family, and we don't want to look at that. But all this to say, a very early brand of this might have given us Shakespeare's Macbeth.
I love it.
So, as we said, this was first performed in the very early 1600s. When Macbeth was written, Shakespeare was, William Shakespeare, was a wealthy, established playwright. So
Not to be confused with his cousin Doug Shakespeare.
Dougie.
Dougie didn't have all his ducks in a row.
So Shakespeare was doing good. He was established. He was known. He was in his heyday. This was also written just a few years after James I had ascended the English throne in 1603. So King James, he was Scottish born, and he had actually been the King of Scotland before he inherited the English crown as well, uniting England and Scotland. So Shakespeare, who was essentially the king was his patron. So he was, tasked with, hey, I'm the king. I would like you to write and have your troupe perform a play for me, for my entertainment. This was a thing that regularly happened. So by setting the play in Scotland, it was just like a way of like Shakespeare being like, hey, I'm going to like suck up to you, King James, and like flatter your heritage. You know, it's sort of like, hey, Jen is from Maryland and we want to honor Jen. So we're going to set this play in Maryland because like that's a little thing Jen might like.
Write about crabs. That's what we're famous for.
Different
Crabs.
Not like crabs that you eat, like from the sea.
We know, but still, that's where it. We all went there, though.
I wasn't ready for that, Jen. That was excellent. So Shakespeare also set Macbeth in Scotland for a mix of political, historical, and dramatic reasons. And again, like we said, he really wanted to appeal to the king as his royal patron, and also just like give a nod to the political climate at the time. You know, it's like, you know, making your play relevant. Yeah. So, and this is where we're about to go off the deep end. King James was fascinated and terrified by witches.
Okay.
He wrote a book. He himself, the king, wrote a book called The Demonology in 1597. So Shakespeare loaded up Macbeth with all these supernatural elements like witches and prophecies and visions, also to cater to the king's interests. So, So the principal source of Macbeth, one of the two principal sources that Shakespeare's like, where should I go like for my source material on this subject matter? He used the king's own demonology, the demonology of King James, which had been published a few years prior.
Wow.
So here's my sidebar. My sidebar is just titled, "What the fuck is this?" So James had visited Denmark, which was a country familiar with witch hunts. And this sparked his personal interest in the study of witchcraft, which he considered to be a branch of theology. He attended the North Berwick witch trials in 1590. This was like the first major persecution of witches in Scotland under something called the Witchcraft Act of 1563. Under the Witchcraft Act, both the practice of witchcraft and consulting with witches were capital offenses. So like they were not messing around. This act remained a statute and was on the books in Scotland until it was repealed in 1735. So they hung on to this for
Wow.
Long time.
Yeah. So many people, much like the Salem witch trials in New England, but several people were convicted of using witchcraft because this was interesting. So James becomes obsessed with this, and there was an incident which I'll unpack in a little bit more detail in a minute, but James had gotten married to his queen, and as they were traveling back, there were like storms on the ocean, which can happen, and like you're traveling by boat, you're traveling by ship. Yeah, and it's like things that are not abnormal with like sea travel, and it was really precarious. You're like in this wooden boat, in the 1500s. Storms happen, like not uncommon. But the king was like, "Oh my gosh, there can be no other explanation for these storms than the witches are conspiring against me and my new bride."
That's it.
And they're trying to kill us. So this was like this event, like him being like, traumatized by this like crossing in these storms. This was somehow in his mind more fuel for this literal witch hunt. So people were accused of using witchcraft to bring these storms on the king's ship specifically. There was this woman named Agnes Sampson, who was, I guess, one of the most famous accused people. Jen is nodding.
Yeah, that's witches are like my Roman Empire.
Oh, so Jen, please, Jen, interject.
I thought it was Gilmore Girls.
I have a few of them.
I know.
So Agnes Sampson, she was a Scottish healer, but also a purported witch. She was known as the wise wife of Keith, and she heavily figured in these North Berwick witch trials in the later part of the 16th century. She lived near Keith. Keith wasn't her husband. It was like Keith. It was.
I thought it was like, they call me Keith.
No, I was like the wife of Keith. I was like, oh, the town, not just some dude named
the
Keith.
guy. Okay. What's up, Keith?
But she was considered to have healing powers, and also, as many healer women of her day did, acted as a midwife. So it was like a woman who knows things about medicine and women's bodies, not to be trusted.
But what's crazy, what always bothers me, because I've read a whole thing on the Salem witch trials, and I guess witches is a bit of my Roman Empire as well.
I think it is, yeah.
What drives me nuts is the whole town that they live in, regardless of like wherever, if there's a witch in your town, first of all, she's not a witch. She's an herbalist and a midwife. And everyone relies on her for healing. My child has fallen ill.
Because we don't have center care.
They deliver the babies.
There's no urgent care here.
That's right. She is the urgent care. She does home visits. But then when it gets too much, or
when
someone
there's a
decides
storm
to make a thing, or somebody's goat dies, because God forbid, there's
Life
no
happens.
other reason a goat would die. Then the whole town that this woman has been keeping alive and healing turns on her and kills her. It's amazing.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. You're absolutely, Olivia, and that is a perfect distillation of this. Also going against her, Agnes was a widow, and she had children.
A lonely woman.
A woman
herself.
alone, not being supervised by a man.
Right.
So again, can't have that. So like I was starting to say, it was spring of 1590 when James was returning from Denmark after marrying his queen Anne, and also, I think it was like we said, he'd been spending some time in Denmark, and the Danish court was also, I guess, just like really into witchcraft and the black arts, and just sort of like investigating that. Like this was just a thing that was apparently being discussed a lot at the Danish court. And
While they were making fantastic pastries.
too.
But this voyage back, so it's like he's been spending all this time with like, his new queen's court and like, maybe making some new besties, and they're talking all about, witchcraft and demons. And then they're on their way back and their voyage is beset by storms. And he's like, oh my God, this rain could not possibly have come from any other place except witches. So by autumn of that year, Scotland is aflame with witch hunts.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the King James was so like passionate about this. Like I was like, were you doing anything else politically at this time? Because he actually was leading the trials and questioning people himself. Like he did not offload this. He was like, no, I'm going to lead it. So Agnes Sampson was accused by someone named Gillis Duncan and was arrested along with other people, but specifically questioned with regard to her role in the storm raising. So it's like, okay, like, yeah. So this is the part where I'm like, we can cut some of this out because it's about to get a little grisly. But she was tortured and then, oh, surprise, confessed after like prolonged torture.
Yeah.
And her body was revealed to have what was called a privy mark or a witch's mark.
Witch's mark, yeah.
Yeah. And so a witch's mark is there's a lot of different names for it, but basically these early witch hunters, they believed that this was like proof, like this was the smoking gun that indicated that the individual was a witch.
It would be like a mole.
Yep.
A
Yes.
scar.
Yes. And it could vary. Yeah. It was like pretty much.
Yeah. Everybody could have one. I got one.
Yes.
Everyone
all
has
have
witch's mark.
Yeah.
If
And this
you want to
is-
be, yeah.
Yeah, and to kind of, I think also, it was like the witch, it was also believed to be, this is the part that I was like, what the hell? So they're like, oh, it's a permanent marking made by the devil himself
That's right.
to seal their obedience and service to the devil. This is the part where I was like, what? The devil is said to create the mark by raking his claws across their flesh, okay, or licking the skin to produce a pattern, or using a hot iron or red brand.
Yeah.
And then the devil was usually thought to mark this person at the end of like nocturnal initiation rites, which I went down a whole other rabbit hole about this. And I was like, oh, are you like scared of like cunnilingus? Is that what this is about?
Well,
because
and-
that was a whole situation.
And
like,
the
Yeah.
that whole thing is based in the belief that witches were having sex with the devil himself.
With the devil.
yes. Yes.
So that's what was happening.
Yes. And so and this was the part where I was like, what the hell? But again, like women's bodies, like we got to be policing those.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they would not even just examine them, but like body hair was treated differently back then. So like they would shave their whole body, and like we said, like look for any freckle that some man decided was like that's the one. But they would like also like these men who, again, it's like they're not the midwife, like they're not studying women's bodies in a medical capacity, but then they're looking at like women's like nether regions, and they're like, oh look, like a mole next to your labia. The only way that could be there is because the devil.
The devil.
Yeah.
Because the devil
What are
branded
you
you.
talking about?
Couldn't have been
Yeah.
there the whole time. God
It's-
knows.
No. Or just it's like just
It's just a
moles
human
be
body.
mulling.
It's a human body.
Human
yeah.
bodies. Yeah, I was like, no, that's just
No,
what
they-
happens.
yeah.
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 So and again, this was not unusual, and who knows, how this whole like thing came to be, or who came up with this as like the ultimate test of like.
Right.
And it was also
Meanwhile,
really-
Sir Duncan might have like 3 balls and 2,
Right.
earlobes where they're not supposed to be, and that's okay. He's fine. He's
Fine.
Duncan's
just
fine,
unique.
Yeah, but
He's blessed, in fact, by God himself.
yeah, it was also icky because like they would usually perform this in front of a crowd, or
Yes,
this
they
would be
would.
done like publicly, which I'm like, we just we
We really hate women in the world. That it's just that simple.
and this was just unfortunately, I feel like this in particular was very precedent setting, and as we've seen in a lot of like other witch trials, it was like we carried over some of the same bullshit because it's like there was nothing to any of this. Obviously, this was just like men are worried about stuff they can't explain, and are also like, hey, there's an unsupervised woman over there
Right.
who maybe seems to have some knowledge that we don't have. Gotta be
Right.
the devil. Like,
Yeah.
couldn't just be
Yeah, 'cause
helping the
they can't
community.
be smarter than me.
right.
she must have conjured this storm in addition to like making herbal remedies to like, heal people's whooping cough. Like she must have conjured a storm to try to kill the king's wife. Like that's the only thing this could be.
Yeah.
So, in December 1590, Agnes Sampson, again, after being extensively tortured in a very public fashion, she confessed to the king himself. And then also in January, about a month later, she then confessed in a follow-up that the devil had offered to help her and her children because she was a poor widow. And she said, oh, the devil appeared to me as a, this was where I was like, the devil appeared to her as a black man. I was like, ooh, racism.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
also as a dog.
Yeah.
So it's like, great.
Both.
It's going well. This poor woman is just being absolutely broken and just like, sure, yeah, all the scary things. People of color, dogs, whatever you say. So unfortunately she was executed. So she was executed at Castile, where here's another, I was just like, what the fuck? Like we said, this was a capital offense. So they were executing people en masse for being witches. They're like, yep, we found a mark and you confessed after torture and we know you're a witch. So it is our duty as the crown to execute you. We think, I think mistakenly, especially with the New England witch trials, that witches were burned at the stake, which actually they weren't. A lot of witches were hanged. So I was just reading along and I was like, I'm ready to read that the witches were hanged. No. Agnes Sampson specifically, was garroted and then burned at the stake. And I was like, what? So then I read
it's like
more
a Braveheart
kind
of ending, right? Isn't that kind of
they had like this whole like garage like machine device, which like you can give that a Google if you want. But I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But then I was reading about this and I went and I was like, oh, what? We are just so weird as people, as humans on this earth. Spain was using this as a capital punishment technique until 1974.
What?
Spain was garroting people until Vietnam.
Oh my God.
Spain was using this as a form of capital punishment. So just file that away.
Well, the
Spain.
guillotine is still used, isn't it?
No, they finally, but there's
for a
like
long
color
time.
footage. Yeah.
Until maybe like
Nixon?
recent, like 20 years ago. Like it was used for a long
It
time.
was still used during World War II for sure.
Yeah, I was like, we are so weird as people. So, yes. So Agnes Sampson was unfortunately put to death on the 20th of January, 1591. She was absolutely innocent. But the ghost of Agnes is said now to roam the palace of Holyrood House, I think is how you say it. It's all one big long word. But this was the palace where King James was conducting most of like the questioning and the trials themselves. So this palace, Holyrood House, one word, it is used as an exterior, not the interior, but it is used heavily, I guess, in season 2 of Outlander. And it is depicted as the residence of Bonnie Prince Charlie.
Great.
I don't watch Outlander.
I haven't watched
I
it
don't
yet
either.
because here's the thing. I know I'm going to love it.
Right, exactly. I was like, I need
I'm
bandwidth.
not ready.
I'm going to get lost in it.
I'm going to get lost in it. So I got to wait. It's coming.
So
it's coming.
So
world.
James was really this was his personal project. So he was really concerned with the threat by the witches. So after his work throughout the 1590s, like having this massive witch hunt, he was like, you know what? It's not enough that I've like tortured and put all these people to death.
It's not enough.
I should write a book about this. So he wrote The Daemonology. I say daemon because it's like demon, but it's spelled DAEMONOLOGIE. And this was inspired by his personal involvement with the practice of witchcraft. So a lot of this demonology book, it was like, hey, here are like accounts of the trials and these accusations, but also a lot of this is just my hot takes, as the king. Like, this is just, here's what I think about that. So Shakespeare used this in his research for Macbeth. He's like, well, this is the popular thinking on witchcraft as, dedicated by the king.
Well, yeah, because I mean, the king
he's
given by God. So he knows,
his word
right?
is God's word, basically.
Well, and speaking of God, King James, he did his demonology, which was in 1597 was when that was published, and that was actually several years before he was like, I'm also going to do the Bible. So it was before we got his King James version of the Bible. Shakespeare also dipped into the Bible itself. I don't know if it was the King James one, but he was like, yes, this will be important as well for Macbeth.
Wow. He's messing with heaven and hell.
Yeah,
sure
it was the demonology too. It was like, it endorsed the practice of witch hunting, like as part of Christianity in a way that was like, the Bible sort of like talks about like, witches or the devil or like demons or whatever, but it's not like it's not going on and on about witches in particular. Like that's just not something the Bible really gets into. It's just sort of like evil, blanket. King James was like, no, I need to make sure there was like a whole manual based on my personal experiences of this. Interestingly, and this was where I was like, James, what the heck, my dude? So he publishes his demonology in 1597. As soon as 1599, his views on witchcraft became more skeptical. It was like he had almost researched himself into a place of skepticism. It was like, whoopsie, learned a little bit more. Maybe this wasn't quite what I thought it was, but too late. I've already published.
We're just gonna let that lie.
Yeah, so he wrote a letter to his son Henry, and he congratulates the prince on, quote, the discovery of yon little counterfeit wench, meaning like someone who I guess was like accused of being a witch but wasn't. And he says, I pray God ye may be my heir in such discoveries. The most miracles nowadays prove but illusions, and ye may see how by this how wary judges should be in trusting accusations. And I was like, cool.
After you've killed how many thousands of women?
Right.
It's like, maybe I should have thought of this a little bit more.
Yeah, a little late, but let's normalize changing our mind. Sure. Like,
wow.
Yeah, so that's just our little side quest about the demonology and where Shakespeare was like, what primary sources could I consult? So we've got Scotland, we have witch trials, we have the Bible, we have the king and his personal obsessions and hot takes. So Shakespeare's Macbeth, here is a little synopsis of what even is this?
What is it?
What even is it? I need a little sip here.
Get it. Hey, can I give you a little? I'm going to give you a little.
Here's a little synopsis of Shakespeare's Macbeth. In Macbeth, Shakespeare explores ambition, guilt, fate, and madness through the rise and fall of a Scottish nobleman. The play opens with Macbeth and Banquo, generals in King Duncan's army, encountering three witches who prophesy that Macbeth will become the king. Consumed with ambition and urged on by his wife, Lady Macbeth, he murders Duncan in his sleep. Duncan, not Macbeth.
Yeah,
Macbeth
and
did not
sleepwalking.
No.
Yes,
Lady
and Macbeth
Macbeth
seizes
later.
the throne.
Yeah. Yes.
So
There is
he's racked. Macbeth is racked with guilt and paranoia, and he becomes increasingly tyrannical. He orders the murder of Banquo, whose descendants the witches said would actually inherit the throne, and Macduff's family. Haunted by guilt and visions, Lady Macbeth spirals into madness and eventually dies. Macbeth clings to power, trusting the witch's further prophecies, which he misinterprets and ignores warnings. Ultimately, Macduff confronts Macbeth in battle and reveals that he, from his mother's womb, untimely ripped, meaning he was born via C-section, thus fulfilling the prophecy that no man of woman born would kill Macbeth. So Macduff kills Macbeth, and Malcolm, Duncan's son, is restored to the throne.
Yep.
So the big overarching moral of this story is that unchecked ambition leads to destruction. And the play is really warning against like overreach of power, moral compromise, and placing faith in misleading sources. it really goes into the thought that like a guilty conscience can't be silenced, and fate may actually be self-fulfilled by desperate actions. So it's really that like you can't outrun your fate, but not even that, maybe not even like from a supernatural way, but maybe it's like you might actually get in your own way and fulfill the prophecy without even meaning to.
Right.
So some of the famous lines from Shakespeare's Macbeth include double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn, and cauldron bubble. That comes from Macbeth. We have, is this a dagger which I see before me? The handle toward my hand. We have, I think we said it earlier, out damn spot, out I say. We have the tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow.
Tomorrow creeps in.
Also in Hamilton.
Also in Hamilton. A lot of, actually quite a bit of Macbeth in Hamilton.
Because he's also of Scottish descent, so they play a lot of that, and I think it's fun.
A little tie-ins.
Little tie-in, I love it, yeah.
Something wicked this way comes.
By the pricking of my thumb, something wicked this way comes.
We also have a little, made famous by Gaston and Beauty and the Beast, screw your courage to the sticky place. It's actually from Macbeth, which I learned as an adult. I was like, wait, what? I thought that was Alan Menken. William Shakespeare. It's fine. Yeah. So those are some of the famous lines. Getting in a little bit to famous adaptations. So for film and television, not necessarily in order, but for film and TV, there was something called Throne of Blood in 1957, which was actually a samurai-centered retelling of Macbeth that was extremely popular by Akira Kurosawa, I believe is how you pronounce their name. Roman Polanski did a Macbeth in 1971 post Manson murders, and was actually apparently extremely influenced by like the tragedy and loss and like fate in his life.
Who was in that one?
Yeah.
Who was in it? I knew you were going to ask that, Jen. I don't.
You
have
keep
a
going.
cast in
I'll look
front
it
of
up.
me. Okay. We've got Macbeth in 2015 starring Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard.
So good.
Cotillard. Sorry, I'm saying it wrong. The Tragedy in Macbeth, which was the probably one of the most recent ones. I think it went right to streaming, but it was shot in black and white by Joel Cohen, and it starred Denzel Washington and Frances McDormand. Like super minimalist, super theatrical, like all on sound stages, like amazing. I think it's on Max. I think you can still stream it. And then like Breaking Bad is actually referred to or compared to Macbeth a lot. Just, like, as a series, as far as like, you know, Walt's sort of turn as Macbeth, and like
turns
someone
into
who's
like a power hungry villain.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. And Skylar is a Lady Macbeth.
I mean, she ends up being just as downright bad as he is.
Yeah. Apparently the series House of Cards also draws on Macbeth's themes. So this is where another turn that I literally flailed when I read this. So to quote, something wicked this way comes. It also, that particular line, inspired a Ray Bradbury novel and a Disney film. Which Disney film, you ask?
Yes,
well,
we
hold
do
on
ask.
to your hats.
Okay.
Is it the Cauldron?
No, Olivia. It's nothing you've ever heard of or I've ever heard of, because I was like, what is this car crash? Something Wicked This Way Comes. Same name. It was released in 1983 and somehow rated PG. It was written by Ray Bradbury, again, of Dandelion Wine, who we talked about, I think, in season 1. I was in that fever dream of a show, and people
oh my God, I'm looking at the poster right now.
Yes. I was like, what is Dandelion Wine about? And people are like, we don't know. It's very confusing. Apparently, Stephen King wrote an adaptation of this, but it was rejected. Steven Spielberg was also approached to direct, and he declined this Disney movie. This was one of Disney's earliest forays into darker, more adult-oriented fantasy, and it struggled at the box office, being polite. It's
Jonathan Pryce
following.
is in it.
Jonathan Pryce is in it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Hold the fuck on. Okay. I have this. I watched this as a child.
He has a top hat.
I have
seen
a
this,
scene.
Olivia?
Yes.
So-
did it open with Tinkerbell flying over the castle?
Obviously.
I don't think so, but it was this was the last film to be released as a Walt Disney production as opposed to from Walt Disney Studios or Walt Disney Pictures. Yeah.
They were like, never again.
They're like, that's
Yeah.
it, we've ruined it.
They were like, listen, we've done Snow White. What's next? This seems like a logical next step.
So on the stage, we had in 1976 Trevor Nunn's Royal Shakespeare Company production with Ian McKellen and Dame Judi Dench. That is considered one of the most iconic stage productions of William Shakespeare's Macbeth. There was also a 2008 Patrick Stewart-led production, which was set in like a Soviet-style regime.
Hey friends, Jen here, and we hope you're enjoying this episode of Life Upon the Wicked Stage. Just a few quick reminders. If you're looking for any of the visuals that we've mentioned in this or any episode of the podcast, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Wicked Stage Pod or Facebook at Life Upon the Wicked Stage. If you want more, please join our Patreon by searching the Wicked Stage Podcast. There you'll find ad-free episodes, videos of our recordings, mini-sodes, behind-the-scenes content, giveaways, and so much more. And the most important side note, if you like the show, please give us a nice rating wherever you listen. It sounds silly, but it's still the best way to get the word out and support us in this crazy podcast world. Well, lights are blinking, intermission's over, so grab those snacks and another drink and enjoy the rest of the show.
Then we also have Sleep No More, which
I did that.
I'm so upset I didn't get to see it.
incredible. We could do a whole episode about Sleep No More, but
Hecate kissed me on my forehead.
it was recently closed, an immersive style production in New York City. It was a retelling of Shakespeare's Macbeth in a neo-noir horror style, which was also fused with elements from Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca and Vertigo. Absolutely an incredible production, and really the only style of immersive theater I am interested in.
So cool.
I
A
love-
four-story hotel is what you
6.
got to wander around in, Jen. It was just unbelievable. And if you
Incredible.
found food, you could eat it. And if you found drinks, you could drink it. It was...
It ran for 12 years. It was.
I
it was
did just
outstanding.
sign.
In Sleep No More, the thing was fortune favors the bold. So, like, I found a couple secret passageways myself. However, they did have, like... ushers is the wrong word, but people like staff
attendants.
kind of attendants like around that were all in black, just in case, just
gotta
for
have people
safety of
keeping
the
actors
performers.
safe.
And
Yeah.
well,
You knew that place had cameras everywhere.
Yeah,
one
you have to
room.
keep people safe.
I got in trouble because in one room I was opening drawers and I found little bags of rock candy. So I was eating them, but I was apparently eating too much because I kept finding the bags and kept eating them. And one of the attendants come up and he was like, because you're not allowed to speak, but he came up and he like touched my hand and he was like, I was like, I'm sorry. I've eaten enough. Okay.
That was probably somebody's like cough drop medication. They were probably like, I'm feeling a little.
it
And
was,
Olivia's like,
it was,
"Woo!"
it was really rock candy. But yeah.
But they were like, leave
funny.
some for
They were
someone
like,
else.
girl, Jesus Christ.
Did you not go to eat before?
Other rooms, go.
It's very active, Jen. Like you're running up and down flights of stairs. It's a very physical evening.
Yeah.
I had the privilege and the pleasure on my final visit of getting taken to the 6th floor, which, yes, if you know, you know. But basically, because of the way the show cycles, only one, maybe two guests a night get chosen and taken to the 6th floor, and it is a one-on-one. It is only you and the performer get to go to the 6th floor and experience that whole element of the production, which was pretty amazing. It was like a little 15-minute just like private little show up there, which was really amazing. I will say though, speaking of the witches, the first time I went, you can truly just be a fly on the wall, or like Olivia said, fortune favors the bold. And if you want to, like if you want to have a one-on-one experience, like here's how to sort of insinuate yourself and to signal non-verbally that you are open to like a one-on-one experience. And they were talking about like, here are the characters, here's kind of how the story breaks down, like here's who you might be interested in following, because the recommendation is pick a character and like follow that
yes.
character. So they said like, if you don't know what else to do, like follow the witches, like they're involved in most of the scenes and like they have really interesting stuff to do. So the very first room I went into, it was an incredible storytelling, but it was apparent to me. I was like, oh, and I had followed their Instagram too, so I kind of knew like costume wise, like who was who. So it was like they were getting ready to transition out of one scene and into the next, but I identified, I was like, oh, there's the witches. And I saw them leaving and I was like, oh, okay, there they go. I'm going to follow them. And I follow the witches into the next room and I'm like, okay, here we go. Start of my night. And Olivia, I walked into the orgy scene.
Yeah.
So the very first thing I saw was full frontal male nudity.
Male nudity,
and
yes.
I was like, oh my God, what if I
Holy crap. I didn't see
What have
that
I
till the
done?
very end. I made it
like-
there at the end and I was like, wow,
And, like,
Bacchus, hello.
I knew there was nudity. I knew it was,
Yeah.
it's like 18 and over. Like, you can't bring your child or anything
No,
like
no,
that
no.
to this. Like, I knew it was going to be intense, but it was like literally in the first 3 minutes.
You were
I was
like-
okay.
I'd gotten a little warmed up by then.
It was Sleep No More was great. I mean that company that produced it, they're still doing.
There's
stuff,
another one
so-
they're doing right now. Yeah.
They're working on all sorts of stuff.
So cool.
So some famous actors who've played Macbeth. This is like, I was just like Googling photos, like, show me famous people who've played Macbeth. It's like, this is like the Roman Empire for specifically men, but for a lot of actors.
And I think for women, it's
Lady
Because of
Macbeth.
Lady M,
because
Absolutely.
I know
Yeah.
that I want to play her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I'll share a bunch of photos on our socials, but notably, Sir Laurence Olivier was like an early Macbeth of both stage and screen, famously.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've talked about Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Kenneth Branagh, Denzel Washington, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Orson Welles. Sorry, back to Black Dahlia. But so many actors and actresses have starred in this production. But kind of talking about the origins of the curse itself now. So the superstition really does go back to the first time this was staged. So legend suggests that Shakespeare used actual incantations from real witches, which angered practitioners of the occult. So it was like, hey, you're doing our spells.
You stole our secret sauce. No.
Yeah, like don't be doing our spells. Early productions were plagued by accidents, including an actor dying on the stage. And the role of Macbeth itself, like it is a demanding role. Like as unless you missed it, this is some dark subject matter. It's extremely demanding. Like this is, drama, tragedy. So just from a emotional, mental, physical standpoint, just the type of show that this is, it is just sort of setting up conditions where performers are more likely to like maybe be injured or make mistakes.
They're
or just
exhausted,
be overwhelmed, which has fueled the legend. So some famous instances of the Macbeth curse, we're going to dive in, and this is a long list. So we might need to edit this section for brevity. But the original performance, legend says that the boy actor, because remember, no women on the stage, the boy actor playing Lady Macbeth died. And Shakespeare himself had to step in and play Lady Macbeth.
Wait,
during the first.
wow, the actor playing Lady Macbeth had died during the performance?
Yep.
During the run of the show?
Yes. Now again, 1600 could be plague, like could be
Would have been January.
Could be anything.
could be syphilis, could be all the things, but yes, Lady Macbeth died. So Shakespeare, very much Shakespeare in love. Shakespeare himself was like, well, guess I'm going on.
The show
as
must
Lady Macbeth.
go on.
Go on.
Love that movie.
Wow.
Jumping ahead in time a bit to the 1840s. This is actually, maybe we'll do an episode on this at some point, but the Astor Place riot. Have either of you heard about this?
No.
No.
So
The Astors,
the Astor Place riot, it is apparently one of the bloodiest episodes in American theater history.
Yes, I have heard of this.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
So for those who have not, this was a rivalry between a British actor named William Charles Macready and an American actor named Edwin Forrest.
Okay.
They were both performing Macbeth in New York at different theaters.
There's like fan clubs. Like
Yes.
And they were
somebody
playing Macbeth,
Yes.
but at different...
Yes.
Okay.
So this was like, Like
Fans,
Jen,
man.
This is like
Fans.
fans and groupies, but also this was sparked by nationalism and class tensions.
Yes.
Because again, we've got, we've got the Brits and we've got the Americans.
Yep.
Our country is still relatively young. We're not even 100 years post-revolution yet. But just a riot broke out that resulted in 22 deaths and over 100 injuries. And this was seen as the Macbeth curse taking effect on a mass scale.
Wow.
That these dueling productions of Macbeth
Was it
caused
like a
riot.
Like a rumble in the street? Like
It was
in
like
Times
my
Square?
Macbeth is better than your Macbeth.
Yes.
Wow.
It was very Jets and Sharks. But it was
Yeah.
it wasn't like formalized, like we're going to meet you on Broadway.
Which also-
they weren't like it didn't like they weren't like
which West Side Story, of course, is a retelling of a Shakespearean.
It is.
It is.
Romeo and
Romeo,
Juliet.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, how interesting. My God.
Yeah.
I forgot
was
about
like,
that.
ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, in
Fascinating.
1937 at the Old Vic, again in London, this was the Laurence Olivier production. Olivier was nearly killed when a stage weight crashed down inches from him, so like a counterweight for the fly system. A sword also flew out of his hand at one point in a fight scene into the audience and it injured someone.
I've heard that one. One. Yes.
Same production. The actor playing Lady Macbeth, Judith Anderson, was hospitalized after a serious car accident during the run. And then the theater's manager, Lillian Bayliss, died of a heart attack on the eve of opening night. Yeah.
That one's this car crash is like, okay, I mean that could happen, but dying on the eve of opening night, that's
like
kind of, yeah,
it's like final dress.
Final
and
dress.
it's like, hey,
and curtain.
manager's dead. Yeah. And apparently there were other various reports of mysterious minor accidents, cast illness, etc. Jumping ahead a little bit to 1948, Diana Windward was performing Macbeth as Lady Macbeth. This is why I was like, this feels like user error. But she chose to sleepwalk in character, meaning I'm guessing she was like, I'm going to do method and I'm going to really close my eyes. But it was like across a high platform and she misstepped and fell. And I'm like, well, you're an idiot. That's not really
That's not what method is.
That's right. That too.
It's the
open
magic
your eyes and be
if.
safe.
It's not being an idiot. It's not actually
It's not
doing
literally
it.
walking a
putting
high
yourself in
beam.
Yeah. Just don't. I was like, it made me, I was like, I don't know that this is like a list of, Diana Windward was injured. I'm like, oh my God, how did she fall? And it's like, she closed her eyes. And I'm like,
And walked out on a
that's
beam.
dumb.
Okay. All
don't
right.
do that.
I mean, I'm sorry that happened, but
come on.
Yeah. Well, don't feel too bad because even though she fell 15 feet into the orchestra pit, she was somehow uninjured and she was shaken but finished the performance.
she just made a big deal about it and told everybody she was method.
And she was like,
rest of
it
the
was the
run.
curse. And they're like, I don't know.
You should have opened your eyes.
Stage manager is like rolling their eyes.
Yeah, the stage manager's like, can you not be method for the rest of the run, please?
The director was like, make a different choice. Let's make a different choice. In 1954, Charlton Heston of Ben-Hur, 10 Commandments fame, if you don't know who Charlton Heston is.
You don't know who that guy is.
He was playing Macbeth in what I have to assume was a very early televised production, when there's 3 channels, but they're like, we're going to put it on TV. So he was playing Macbeth. He was wearing traditional Shakespearean costume, and his tights were, I don't know why, but they were treated with spirit gum, which is
What?
flammable. Yeah, I was like, say more about why that happened.
Wait,
Like,
but okay, hold on. Time out. So spirit gum, for those of you in the uninitiated, those 3 of you listening, spirit
tell them.
gum is what is used to attach fake hair to the face. If you need a
adhesive.
mustache, or
It's
if
sticky.
you, it's very, very sticky. Why was it on his tights?
Why was it on his tie?
I don't know. I could not find any intel about this.
Was that like
Listeners,
a joke? Like he'll never be able to get these off.
Listeners, if you know what this is about, please DM us because I was like, why? But
I feel really
for
bad
whatever
about leg hair and etc.
I don't know. There must have been a lot of spirit gum though on these tights because during a scene they somehow caught fire and caused second-degree burns on his thighs.
Thank God it was just his thighs.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like burning the tip. It's not funny, but it's funny.
Well, it is kind of funny.
He remained, again, this is like live television. He remained in character and he managed to finish the performance despite his pain. They're like, go to commercial.
Stop, drop, and roll. And then get back up and keep going.
I'll see if I can find this like on YouTube or something somewhere. I was like,
did he get too close to like the witch's cauldron? What was on fire that caught him on fire?
Again, why the spirit come and where was the fire? I don't know. Maybe like a candle? Yeah,
I can't.
Probably a candle.
Who knows? Now just jumping around. Those were some of the famous ones, but here's maybe some of the lesser known instances. An English actor, Harold Norman, playing Macbeth, he was actually mortally wounded during a sword fight during a live performance at Oldham's Coliseum in 1947. So like fully just like stage combat gone wrong, and I'm like, why so sharp and stabby the swords?
Yeah, why didn't have like tips on his rapier or whatever?
Why many things? Yeah, but he was somehow actually stabbed with the sword. And then I'm assuming it sounds like just infection and just not well controlled. But it took him 3 weeks to die. But he died in the hospital as a result of this injury 3 weeks later, which I was like, woof.
Can you imagine being his scene partner, like whoever that was?
Right? Yeah, like however that happened.
Somebody didn't check their distance.
Yeah.
Somebody. That's why we have Fight Call, ladies.
That's why we have Fight Call.
Right.
And also why you have a trusted prop master. This is
I was explaining Fight Call. Shout out to Chelsea Green. Hey, Chelsea. Who's a WWE wrestler that I did.
Oh, I was like, I don't. That's the one that you.
With.
Yeah.
And I was discussing what Fight Call was because they don't have one.
Sure.
And they like learn
for wrestling. They don't have fight calls.
They like
they rehearse though.
They like know what their moves are like right before they do them.
There's an improv element. Yeah,
it's an improv, and they discuss it, and they're yelling it at each other like while they're doing the moves. She was like, "Wait, you have a fight call?" I'm like, "Yeah." Before every performance, she goes, "But do you do different moves?" And I was like, "No, it's the same move.
It's literally choreographed.
It's literally choreographed." I was like, "These guys," because we were at Pirates Dinner Adventure. I was like, "These guys, if they've done the show for 20 years, it's the exact same fight, and they do fight call the exact." She's like, wow. And I was
you could improv in other parts of the show, not during a fight.
Not in fight call. I was like, it's a, So
because you will stab your scene partner with a
you got a fight
rapier.
Call. So important.
Yep.
And you got to protect the 8x10. You know?
Yep. Stage comeback gone wrong is why I have a messed up shoulder for 20 years. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Ironically,
sidebar.
It was because of a production of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma.
See, it is cursed.
It is cursed. Was it the Dream Ballet? Was it the fucking Dream Ballet?
It was the fucking
Dream
Ballet, Jen. It was Oklahoma 1.0.
Any show with a Dream Ballet is inherently cursed.
It is cursed.
Inherently cursed.
You gotta take it out.
It was Oklahoma 1.0, and it was Judd.
Because Judd is also a problem.
It wasn't. He didn't mean to. It wasn't. No. It wasn't malicious, but it was in fact. And it was. We didn't have a fight call, and
it
so.
Yep. You know.
Well,
yeah.
Going back to things gone wrong.
Anyway.
December 1964, a fire burned down the D. Maria II National Theater in Lisbon, Portugal. At the time, the play on stage was
Macbeth. Wow!
Burned down the whole ass theater.
The whole theater took it down. Wow.
Yep. 1980 production of Macbeth, again the Old Vic, this time starring Peter O'Toole. It was actually it went so badly it was referred to as Macdeath.
Oh shit!
I know, and I was like, did someone die? And apparently this was maybe a little bit hyperbolic because nobody actually like died, but it was reviewed so badly that like the theater company who was performing at that space, they just disbanded shortly after. So like
killed the theater company.
It killed the company, not the person.
Wow.
Yeah. I was like, also like Peter O'Toole is an excellent actor. So
yes.
I'm like, what happened here?
I wonder. I bet we could Google the Macbeth review or Macbeth review Peter O'Toole. I bet we could find it.
I'm sure we should like
check like newspapers.com or something and see if we can find a scathing review. Yeah. We actually talked about this. Olivia talked about this previously. It was, I don't think it actually made our final episode cut, but it's on our Patreon about a performer who died at the Met.
Yep.
In 1988.
I should be so excited about that. So sorry. You're like, yeah.
Remember the guy that threw himself horribly from the balcony? Yeah.
Yes,
so
on
good.
our Patreon.
So Olivia recapped this well on our Patreon, so you can go there for more detail. But this Bulgarian singer, coach, and translator Bancho Banchevsky.
Yep, best name ever.
Yep. By all accounts, he committed trigger warning suicide while he was attending this nationally broadcast matinee of Verdi's. So the opera, not the Shakespeare play, but same subject matter.
Yep.
Verdi's Macbeth.
Yep. And he, during intermission,
Yes. Yep. There was an intermission.
jumped off the top tier of the balcony.
That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
At the Metropolitan Opera House. Yep. So yeah, it was one of those. We talked about this at length, so I'm not going to go back into it. But it was also like there was probably some other stuff going on with him, maybe on a personal level. So maybe less the curse, but at the same time, this has been.
But still, he picked that show.
Yes.
Jen's face.
you
What's
chose this
happening?
one.
Did you find something?
Did you find the review?
Okay.
Read it, Jen.
Well,
let's hear it.
We could read that for
For Patreon.
Yeah, put this on Patreon. Let's hear some tidbits.
I will just here are some highlights.
I'm ready.
Peter O'Toole has not acted in a major Shakespearean role for 17 years. Brian Forbes has not directed in the theater before. Macbeth, Old Vic, is a very difficult play. So much for excuses. That's the opening line. He stretches, for starters, one of Shakespeare's briefest plays to more than 3 hours playing time.
Pacing, man.
3 hours. Here it is. Let me find it. I just saw it.
Oh, they probably
Okay.
added a dream ballet.
Probably.
The Witch's Dream
The
Ballet.
witch's dream ballet.
Nobody wanted.
Even the witches, they didn't want it.
Unfortunately, the idea made risible by the shaky tone of the production generally is the voluminous bloodiness of Macbeth's hands and subsequently of Banquo's ghost. Either sight would be enough to send the protagonist into a coma. Unfortunately, Mr. O'Toole has been in this state from the onset. So he has nowhere to go.
Oh.
Was this written by John Simon by any chance?
It wasn't.
Okay. He was a hell of a reviewer,
yeah.
too.
Zinger.
Chances are he loves the play, but his performance suggests that he's taking some kind of personal revenge on it, methodically draining it of sense and variety.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So, and it's hard to know sometimes, like whether it's the performer or the director or just timing
Right.
or whatever.
Or everything.
Or the everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, haven't we all seen a production where it's
Yes.
like all the ingredients are good and somehow
not clicking.
it doesn't come together. It's just like stillborn. It's like
Yeah.
this should have been
This
good.
should have
Like it
been
had all
a
the
hit.
bones.
Yeah.
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 I love that he was in a coma the whole
He's in a coma
whole
the
time.
whole time.
I did well. Let's see. We've got a couple more on the cursed
Okay.
the cursed list. Ari Aster, the writer and director of the horror film Hereditary.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So he said during the filming, Alex Wolff told me not to say the name of William Shakespeare's Scottish play out loud because of some superstitious theater legend. I smugly announced the name, and then one of our lights burst, shooting the following scene.
Yep. Don't fuck around with
Don't
this,
do it.
people.
Fuck around.
Terrence Shank did it. Ari Aster did it.
So here's another one where I was like, oh, I never put this together. This is recent. At the 94th Academy Awards, Chris Rock congratulated Denzel Washington on his performance in The Tragedy of Macbeth, saying the name of the Scottish play aloud in the Dolby Theater. Moments later, Rock was slapped by Will Smith after making a joke about Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith.
what happens.
Viewers, including the playwright Len Nottage, quickly took to social media to joke that Rock had suffered from the curse of the Scottish play.
I never heard that correlate. That is hysterical.
Yep.
Wow.
Let's see. There's just a couple more. I didn't know this. Somehow I missed that this even happened. Alan Cumming did a one-man Macbeth in
Yes, he did.
2013 on Broadway.
Wow. How do you
it was
do
like
that?
Yeah, he said it in
You're
like an
Alan Cumming.
asylum, and it was like a multiple personality disorder psychological thriller
Whoa,
situation.
whoa.
I was like,
Yeah.
how did I not see this? That sounds great. But apparently during previews, there were technical failures, actor injuries, and various emergency medical issues that plagued the production. At least 2 understudies had to step in with little notice, and Cumming himself was briefly hospitalized with exhaustion.
Well, that I could see. I mean, that
Sure.
I could see.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently people said there was a haunting energy about the whole
I
production.
feel like anything he does has a haunting energy, though.
I know, right? It's
Really
just like,
good point.
That's like his brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alan Cumming, haunted energy.
Haunting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, the let's see, and then that Michael Fassbender film, 2015, Macbeth.
good.
A lot of the cast they noted like the heavy emotional toll of shooting. Miranda Cotillard, she had said that she experienced recurring nightmares and hauntings while she was playing Lady Macbeth during the filming.
Yeah.
A crew member was injured during a battle sequence, delaying production, and a lot of the performers, they refused to say the name even on set, like in character, like, you've got to say it. They're like, I don't want to. I don't want to do it. Because they filmed a bunch of the scenes in ancient ruins in fog-heavy Scottish Highlands.
With a Ouija board off to the side.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We don't
Excellent
wanna say
idea,
it.
guys. Great idea.
With the ghosts coming through the fog.
So here's a little bit of counter feedback. But according to the actor Sir Donald Sinden, he was interviewed about just some documentary about Great West End theaters, and he said, contrary to popular myth, Shakespeare's tragedy Macbeth is not the unluckiest play as superstition likes to portray it. He said it's actually the opposite. The origin of the unfortunate moniker, it dates back to repertory days when each town and village had at least one theater to entertain the public. If a play wasn't doing well, it would invariably get pulled and replaced with a surefire audience pleaser. Macbeth was always guaranteed to have full houses.
It was a knee-slapping good time.
So it's like commercially, this show has actually like been a hit for a really long time.
Sure.
Audiences have always really liked it. It's been a surefire box office success. Yeah. And he said, hold on, I lost my little place. Oh, he said, at one point, it had been replaced. He said more actors have died during performances of Hamlet than during the Scottish play,
that one
as the
is
profession calls it.
Probably also haunted. There's a lot of ghosts and murder.
I mean, yeah, not that, Olivia. And he said it is forbidden to quote it from backstage, as this could cause the current play to collapse and have to be replaced, causing possible unemployment. Yeah. So there are methods to dispel the curse, as we've talked about, and some of this there's a little bit of wiggle room, but this is attributed to various sources, and this is kind of what we have already alluded to, where it's like there are ways to get rid of it, and different people maybe have different particulars. If you say it, or if you have some smug asshole who says it, here's what they have to do to get rid of it.
Yes.
That's right.
So the person has to immediately, the person who said it has to immediately leave the building that the stage is within. So leave the theater.
Yep.
Get out of here.
And then they have to walk around 3 times.
Yep. That's what I've always heard.
Spit over their left shoulder, say an obscenity, and then they have to be invited back into the building by someone else. That is the overall.
Yep.
Someone also says there's a related version that says that takes out the leaving of the building part, but you just spin around 3 times.
I've heard that
spot,
too.
and then accompanied by the spitting while you spin, and then you utter the obscenity. Another one is that you just leave the room, not necessarily the whole theater, and then you knock 3 times and have to be invited in, and then have to quote Hamlet.
Oh, have to quote Hamlet.
I know, it's like Hamlet. We're bringing Hamlet into this. I hadn't heard that one.
There's
to be. Or not to
Did
be.
you guys ever watch the show Blackadder?
No.
Oh my God, it's hilarious. Hugh Laurie's in it, and Rowan Atkinson. Hilarious. The 3rd season, it takes place in like the 1700s, and Hugh Laurie plays like the Prince of Wales. He's a fop. He's hilarious, but they have actors that come to the palace, and they keep saying Macbeth just to make them turn around, spit over their shoulder, and do an upset. It's hilarious. It is so funny. If we can find a clip and put it on social media,
that's very funny.
That's one of the funniest bits I've ever seen, and they just keep doing it on purpose. They're like Macbeth, brr, Macbeth, brr. They just because the actors are so obsessed with like, no, you can't say that.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I mean, it's the biggest no-no.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest no-no besides whistling in a theater and
Yeah. Which
walking
is so you
under
don't
a-
get something dropped on your
This
head.
is the worst.
Because,
Right.
because we don't have
whistling is
sailors
like
anymore, like moving the
Right.
scenery.
Yeah.
So it's really
Right.
not a thing.
Yeah, the whistling is I think the whistling to me falls more under like tradition and like etiquette. This is like
Right.
you're literally inviting a curse.
into your space. Right.
Yeah. It's interesting though. So Sir Patrick Stewart, going back to him, he was being interviewed at one point and he says, if you have played the role Macbeth, like you are the actor who played Macbeth, then you are allowed to say the name anytime, anywhere.
Oh, I have heard that. I have heard that.
Because you played the
Because you
role.
played
Because
it.
it was you, so you like get a pass. To me, I was like, I can relate to that because having played Mary Poppins several times,
Yes.
I have opened a lot of umbrellas indoors.
That's true.
And people are like,
Right.
"Oh my god, don't do that!" And I was like, "Oh no, it's fine. I'm good. Like I'm."
Everything's fine.
You guys, I'm Mary Poppins.
I'm going to
It's
fly
fine.
I'm immune.
first. It's good.
And I didn't read this, but this was just something I had heard or thought or knew was if you are, and it sounds like maybe this is not true. So I was like, oh no, I've been doing it wrong. And I'm with you, Jen. I usually just say the Scottish play, especially if I'm in a theater.
Same,
Just
same,
out
same.
of
Say
an
it.
abundance of caution. But I had also heard if you are referring to the character, not the play, that it wasn't cursed. Like if you said, like if you're standing in the theater and you're like, like in Macbeth when the witches, you're like, no, it's cursed. Versus if you say, oh yeah, Dave played Macbeth at blah blah, that was okay because it's the character,
I've
not
never-
the play.
That makes
heard that.
sense. That makes
don't
sense.
know.
I've never heard that, but that does make sense.
Well, according to Patrick Stewart, the only people who
think-
are safe are those who have played the title role. So
I think Sir Patrick Stewart is whatever he says is believed.
I'm with you,
hands down.
Olivia. He is an authority on this.
He's
so.
absolutely an authority. So this just reminded me of opening night when I was in it. We had the three witches. Now this is interesting. You can do the version with or without Hecate.
Hecate.
Hecate?
Hecate. It depends on
Hecate?
how you. Yeah.
I know.
So the version with Hecate, she does like a big monologue.
Yeah.
But if you do the version without it, that monologue is just not in there. So we did the version without it. But
And who's she, Olivia?
she is like the mother of witches.
Yeah, she's like the queen of the witches. Yeah.
The queen of the witches. Yeah. Yeah. In lots of lore, not just Shakespeare. I don't think she was started with Shakespeare. I think he just
he
put
pulled
in
her
there.
from the demonology.
Right.
She's
in there.
She's in the King James Bible somewhere. We had this really cool. We did a post-apocalyptic. It was the 90s. Okay, we did a post-apocalyptic Macbeth.
Was it? What is it? Was it a concept?
It was a concept. It was a big C. It was a concept. It was directed by Thomas Willett and it was designed by Lisa Cody Rapport. And so, it was post-apocalyptic. All of the warriors in like the Scottish army were dressed kind of like 90s punk with like Converse shoes. And there was this spider, this like looked like a giant actually it's very reminiscent of the monster in Stranger Things, like the kind of legs.
Okay. Yep.
That's kind of what was on set the whole time. So when we had our first scene as the witches, it was really cool. Like we came out and we were in very weird, we were in nude bodysuits with like sheer hanging over us, and we had like painted faces and a lot of weird braids in our hair. And Matt Palm actually said that we were all very creepy, which I was like, yay! So we come out, and then there was a trap door in the stage that we would open, and it was lit in like green and blue with fog. So that was our cauldron.
Yep.
So we each, when we come out for the double scene, and we're all saying eye of newt, toe of frog, tongue of bat, whatever. Wing of bat, toe of dog. Anyway, so we open it. We have our little cauldrons, and we're supposed to be like putting the stuff in while we're saying it and canting. And the three of us are crowded around it. And as I start, I knocked my whole cauldron, my little baby cauldron, into the pit. So I was like, oh shit. So I was like, what am I going to do? So I grabbed the cauldron from my fellow witch next to me and used hers. And she was like, afterwards, she's like, you bitch, you used my potion. And I was like, listen, I had to have something to drop into the flames, okay?
Gotta cast my spells.
I had to cast my spells. Yep. Oh, it was funny.
I've never done it, but someday.
No, me neither.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting so I can play Lady Macbeth.
The lady, yeah.
I mean, we could do it at any point here. There's no rules, especially in an adaptation of
Actually,
a concept.
Like one of us could be Macbeth, one of us could be Lady Macbeth, and the other one could be all the three witches.
That'll be my
that would be actually really cool.
An
to
all-female
have
Macbeth.
Nobody
Actually,
asked for
that
it,
would be cool.
That'd be really cool.
Has that been done? I bet that's
Maybe
been
I'll
done.
be Macbeth instead of Lady Macbeth. Fuck it.
Someone give it a Google.
There was. I'm gonna Google it real quick because there was
Do
an
it.
old lady 1776. There had to
Jen
be.
and I will play Macbeth and Lady Macbeth and confuse the hell out of the reviewers.
Yes!
Because
They won't know who is who.
who was it?
And I'll be all three witches. That'll be perfect.
Well,
I love
Olivia,
it.
that's how they did it in the Denzel Washington production. That actress whose name I'm blanking on, she played all three witches.
Yeah.
Famous character actress. Oh my god, I'm blanking on her name, but she was incredible. But yeah, that's how they did it. They're just one actress did it all.
Okay. Yes, it's been done,
Well, let's do it again.
but we could
Not
do it
by
again.
us.
Not by us.
Not in
Not
Portland,
by
though.
us. Exactly.
Yeah.
Catherine
It's
Hunter
cool, though.
was the witches.
Yes. Thank you, Jen. Yes, incredible.
Yeah.
Just kind of wrapping it up here. The curse of Macbeth, it may be rooted in the play's challenge to divine order, not merely superstition. So while we love to talk about witches and backstage accidents, the neighbor curse, it might actually lie in how Macbeth violates spiritual and moral laws of the universe, especially given its origins in like Christian and or monarchist or patriarchy views, specifically from Shakespeare's time, but not some of that in contemporary culture. Because, you know, in Shakespeare's England, kings were believed to have been appointed by divine right, literally chosen by God.
Right.
Yep.
So when Macbeth murders King Duncan, a holy anointed figure, he's not just committing treason, he is challenging like cosmic higher order. So
Yeah.
there's a section in the play that where it's like Shakespeare is suggesting that the natural world is responding to this chaos, and the section goes: horses eat each other, the sky stays dark during the day, ghosts walk, people go mad. It's as if the universe itself is cursed by Macbeth's crime. And this may explain why productions are often considered cursed, because you are reenacting like this cosmic disturbance and summoning spiritual consequences of disrupting like this divine authority. So there's also the sense of kind of like what we talked about at the beginning, but the curse might also be self-fulfilling. It's one of those.
You kind of anticipate something going wrong, so it welcomes things going wrong.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're putting, you know, the energy out there in the universe, you know, like the vibe is off. But it is this like dangerous production. Like there's sword fighting, and there's like, you know, it's stressful and it's like physically taxing. But there is sort of, I think, because of like, you know, the curse, there's almost this expectation of disaster or of something happening. So like you're going to look for it, or you're going to anticipate it. And yeah, it's like, you know, there may, you know, be mistakes and real accidents, but like any more so than any other production, than Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma.
When there's a dream ballet.
Yeah, so it's like the myth, it may be, you know, it may be myth, it may be curse, it may be psychological self-sabotage. But just in closing, I'll just say, the next time someone dares to whisper Macbeth inside a theater, remember that the curse may be just a story, but in the theater, stories have power. From Burnham Wood to Broadway, Macbeth leaves blood in its wake, and whether curse or coincidence, the theater never forgets.
Ooh. You just gave me chills. Did you write that?
I might have wrote it.
I
was like, how do I wrap this up?
That is so good. I've always thought it had something to do with the fact that there's actual spells being cast in the show. That's what I kind of always have thought. And
I'm with you, Olivia.
Yeah.
And now that like I didn't know this before, but like especially since Shakespeare was like literally had like the demonology open. He's like, well,
yeah.
He's like, I'm on a deadline. I'm not gonna.
My
I'm not gonna do better than this. Like, put it in.
Oh man, that was so great.
That was fantastic.
It brought back lots of nostalgia, and I think people that just don't pay heed to the theater traditions and superstitions.
Sure.
I remember when I worked at Dr. Phillips Center and we moved into the building because I was there before we opened, and we were opening it. I was working with someone who was like, "Oh, I don't give a shit about theater suspicion. I'll say Macbeth."
Get out of there. Why are you working in a theater?
I know. She kept saying that. And I had a conversation with her once, and I was like, listen, I get where you're coming from. Okay. Listen. Like, she came from the sports world. Okay. So like she was incredible at her job, but this one thing. And I said, you need to understand something. You're working now with a bunch of theater people, and what you're saying is actually really disrespectful to the things that we hold true. Tradition. And even if you think it's nonsense, everyone from now on that comes across that stage doesn't think it's nonsense. And so the fact that you keep saying that is insulting. And she's like, I never thought of it that way. And so
they
she
think
stopped
you're an
doing
asshole.
And they're going to think you're an asshole. And also that you want the brand new multi-million-dollar building to burn down.
To fail. Yeah.
That's right.
In every way. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
So. You should have been like, well, I'm changing my underwear. Because good sports people don't like change their underwear or something.
And it had spirit gum on it, so it's really hard to get off, but I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it anyway.
We've got to get to the bottom of that. Why?
Pun intended.
We really do.
Unintended.
We really do.
Oh my goodness. Well, next time, not today, but Olivia's already prepared. Next time.
I'm ready.
She's ready to go.
I'm ready, you guys. I have a scandal, the biggest maybe arts scandal of one of the biggest. Actually, I could think of a couple other ones, but one of the biggest scandals in arts of Central Florida, which made national news. We were splashed all across the New York Times.
Sure were.
Is the scandal of the forged artwork of Basquiat, and the involvement of the executive director of the Orlando Museum of Art, Aaron DeGroft. And I would like to humbly put forth that we call this episode The Grift of DeGroft.
Sold. I will also say, listeners, this is our first, I believe. We've had, obviously crime, murder, things of that kind as a category of episode. We've had hauntings as a category of episode, and scandals, which this is falling under. But this is the first time we have talked about art.
Yeah,
like,
you're right.
Fine art,
fine
per
art.
se, as
That's
opposed
right.
to the performing art. So we're dipping a toe into the fine art world. I'm very excited. Olivia, I'm very excited for this episode on the Basquiat scandal.
It's homegrown scandal.
Neither here nor there, but is Matt Palm able to
you know what
I comment or
we
join?
did. You know what? I will message. I'm going to send him an email. I'm going to start it right now so
Let's
I remember.
Just see. I mean, who knows?
Wouldn't that be fun?
And just say, Matt, are you busy? Fringe is over.
Fringe is over. Any comments, or if we send him some questions? I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I think it'd be fun if he just joined us and had a glass of wine and talked.
We just send him a little, like, here's our link.
Here's our link. Jump in.
A theater podcast, Basquiat scandal.
I love it.
Yeah.
We should bring Matt in when we talk about our most unhinged reviews as well for Patreon.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
And he can talk about the most unhinged that he's ever written.
Matt doesn't write unhinged reviews.
He doesn't.
Jen, is there anything else we need to know or do before we?
I don't think so. Check us out on wherever you listen to your podcast, obviously, plus YouTube. Now you can see our faces. Join us on Patreon for free. We do have some free content on there, but join us at $3 and up for exclusive content. And now that we have a little bit more time, we know what the hell we're doing. There is going to be some merch coming. We will finally have some boozy
Oh my God.
brunches. We are very busy, important ladies, and we just haven't had time. But we're getting our shit together, and it's going to happen. I promise.
We're getting our shit together. We are worth your $3 to $5.
I swear to God.
Put another way, we are at least as valuable as four Haas avocados. 3 floozies or 4 avocados.
3 floozies for $5.
We are also the good. We are also the good fat. JK.
Oh my God.
And scene.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Wicked Stage Pod.
Follow us on Instagram and check out our Patreon for more exclusive content.
These deliciously wicked episodes drop every other Friday, so make sure you subscribe or follow and don't get left waiting in the